It's been a bad afternoon. Usually I start off with peace and love or good afternoon. But for many black mothers, family members, and loved ones, they're having a bad afternoon. It's only January, and we are well on our way repeating the same ignorance and evil that's been plaguing our community with over 200 homicides in 2020 in this small city we call Washington, D.C. But when leaders don't care, because the people don't care. I say this because we never fully recovered from the crack epidemic and the mass murders that swept through Washington, D.C. We had recently two 50-year-old kids killed in our community. Just last night on Morris Road, I got the call from a queen, let me know that another night, we had a 60-year-old boy in the hallway suffered from bullet wounds, and he too was pronounced dead. Just last week, we had an 8-year-old girl shot in the back in this war. And you hear this story over and over again. And it's become normal to a lot of our people because we've been desensitized from the violence that's hurting our hearts because we have to keep going. If you are from this community, and I ask you to raise your hand if you've been affected by gun violence, raise your hand. That's almost 100% of the room. And the sad reality is that bad things happen when good people do nothing. See, I often get the messages and ads on social media about what are we going to do about this and what are we going to do about that. But the reality is you cannot depend upon politicians, mayors, the police department to heal our community. This is a community problem. We all have a role to play, yes, absolutely. And I do agree that we have not done enough. See, when I got on the council and I started talking about the violence in the community because I was doing 3 visuals a week, no one wanted to hear it. Where your heart is, then your trust will be also. See, what I know is when I watch the social media, I see the parents of these young men and young ladies that are out of control of our community, twerking, dropping it like it's hot, doing the busted challenge, and even last night, the silhouette challenge. So I ask you, and I push you, when are we going to have the spelling bee challenge? When are we going to have the 24 challenge? When are we going to have the grooming challenge, or the etiquette challenge? We have to change the social norms in our community by starting with changing our mindsets. Oftentimes I see our young people on the social media taunting each other. I got a message this morning from someone who just passed recently. And someone said, I wish I would have killed him. And had a picture of him, his face on the end of a piece of a weed stem, saying smoking on such and such. This is not Chicago, man. The sad reality is that we are all interconnected one way or another. DC is too small. Oftentimes I'm in a long conversation with somebody and I talk about where you from, who your people. We all are related in some form or fashion. And so when you hurt somebody, it affects all of us directly and indirectly. See, I was on Hugo Road the other day and saw the mother of Ed couldn't barely breathe because he sat outside of the 7-Eleven and had her son go across the street. And the next time she saw her son, he was coming out the store in a body bag. A college student. A college student. This is all of our problem. And the more we point the finger, the more it's going to keep happening and happening in our community. Because I see even our kids. This is the age of the, what's the best word I can use? Scammers. I'm going to just keep it real. And we spend all these thousands of dollars. Little kid got on Fendi, Gucci, Prada, you name it, he got it. But when I check and see upon him and get to know him a little bit more, he can't even spell that good. He can't say his ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Yet he got a $5,000 outfit on. We have to change the mentality and mindset of our people. Dr. King said unity or non-existence. See, we cannot afford to be divided. And I hear a lot of people talking about, we need this person do this person do this. But I do remember in about 2012, 2013, prior to me becoming a council member, they talked about closing our schools down. And I got so many calls and so many messages, and people were outraged and disgusted that their school was going to close down. So I met with Murray. We had plenty of rallies. And it was roughly 300 students in every school. There's 4 schools. That's over 1,200 students. You know how many parents showed up each rally? About 20. About 20 parents at each school. Yet the complaining has to stop. We got to get active in our community. Talk is cheap. And we've seen the duplicity, what happens with law enforcement. And I challenge my colleagues on the council, Mayor Amelia Bowser, because I was on the calls when we had the riots down the Capitol, days prior to. And I seen the high executive level meetings with the police departments about coordinating and having these set up in a strategy. But last year, we had 920 people shot in the District of Columbia, and I haven't seen the strategy yet. In the last 4 days, we had 8 kids shot in our community, and I haven't seen the strategy yet. And it's on us to push the envelope, because the power lies in the people. See, I fight to change the narrative in our community. I remember when Commissioner Salima Dofu put a letter out to put a moratorium on liquor stores. I followed up right behind her with another letter. Because my question is, how many more liquor stores do we need? See, I had to fight tooth and nails to ensure that we get 2 brand new grocery stores in our ward. And it's coming, but that's still not enough for 150,000 residents east of the Anacostia River. See, we are what we eat. And if we feed ourselves poison gonna come back out. And we're traumatized and faced with mental agony in this community. And hurt people, but heal people. If a white kid got shot in Washington, D.C., the narrative would have been changed. We'd have had meetings, we'd have had DHS out there, we'd have had the police department, we'd have had mental health services, everybody would have been outside. But a little boy, 16-year-old, got shot last night. And if I didn't tell you, most of you in this room wouldn't even know it. And it's Friday. And the beefs are sparking up even more. We don't know what's going to happen tonight. But the more we close our eyes and turn away, it's going to get closer and closer to our door. If it hasn't visited you yet, it will, if we don't do something. We knew that during the riots, over 3,400 people were coming to the city, occupying hotels, Airbnb. Yet the narrative from the police department, I see it every day, they just, Commissioner Pixley just called me yesterday about the police coming from PG County to D.C. to run and jack up a little boy, 14 years old, and then we couldn't find him for hours, and he wasn't even the one to jump out the car. I didn't hear or see the narrative of them running up into people's hotels and houses looking for guns, but it's in the black community, it's a double standard. But they don't care until we start caring. I'm going to say it again. They don't care until we start caring. No one else is coming to save us but us. And I don't want to hear the narrative because it's budget season that we don't have the money. See, what I do know is when I first got on the council, in 2017, we had a $14.5 billion budget. Now we're at a $16.7 billion budget. We have more back-to-school programs, recreation centers, activities for our kids, when we had a $9 billion budget. So don't tell me we can't. Can't is not in the man's vocabulary. See, where your heart is, then your treasure will be also. See, I know that on MLK, between Good Hope Road and Howard Road, $1 billion is about to be spent right there. So when I go advocate for a recreation center, for a community that know that Hot Red closed, All Red closed, Ketchum Red closed, Blue Red closed, Highland Rec closed. Number 11 Boys and Girls Club closed. Yet, we're wondering why our kids are out in the streets. It's by design. It's by design. Then we ask, why these kids off the chain? Because we left them helpless and hopeless. And that's on us. That's our kids. That's our generation. That's our future. See, we passed out about 900 meals a day for our seniors during COVID. And when I went past Mimi House and Henson Ridge, I noticed a group of young men in the back almost every day. And I said, y'all want something to eat? They say, no, Trey, give us a cash app so we can get some curry out. And I went back to that house Saturday, only to realize that was the same youngin who was shot of Johnson 3 nights ago. And my heart was hurt. Because I remember arguing with DPR about closing the rec down. The person who was responsible for opening the rec had the door locked. And the football team, when Coach Virgil was using the bathroom outside because we had a rec, a public rec, but the doors was locked on the rec. It's the same community. We lost this young man. And so we have to step up and take responsibility. Because 920 people shot in our community is far too many. Because you count 900 last year, you count the 600 the year before that, you count the 500 the year before that, and you fast forward 10 years from now, you're not talking about gentrification, you're talking about genocide. And we out of here. And it's us doing it to us. I encounter young men every day and pour into them. Because I raised 2 generations of black men in this community, and which some just graduated from college. And I have a conversation with them. And it baffles me how this young man is so smart and so intelligent, so witty, and so creative. He said, Trey, let me get $20. But yet, this same young man is getting access to a $1,500 gun, but don't have $20 or something to eat. That should make you think, what the hell is happening to our babies in our community? And I'm seeing that the old heads in the community used to be 45, 50. The old heads 24. And putting a battery in these youngest backs. And they say you reap what you sow. No, you reap more than what you sow. And the issue is that we erase God out of our community, out of our schools, out of our homes, out of our churches, out of our mosques, out of our synagogues. The Spirit of God is gone. And we wonder why the village is sick. Our village is sick. See, I had a conversation with a group of men, and we were talking, only to learn that out of the 6 people in that group, 3 of them had already been shot before. And one of them just came from home from beating a body. That should tell you what's happening in our community with our black men. And the fastest growing prison population right now is African American females. So you spend a lot of time, and this ain't going to be your regular press conference. Because you know what I'm saying is the truth. And we talk about what's happening during COVID, the amount of deaths we had during COVID. The issues we had is exacerbated before COVID even hit the community. We've had more deaths in war than anywhere in Washington, D.C., but people don't seem to care. As long as it's on that side of the river. It's still on that side of the river. See, what I do know is that people can't afford to live anywhere else in Washington, D.C. as the price of living goes up. Because when I first got in office, the earned median income was $114,000 a year on average, and people was making it in the DMV. Right now, that number is at $121,000 per year. Yet the poor black people in this community is getting poorer and poorer and poorer. Yet we taking our money, spending it with all these designers. It's not going to do a damn thing for our community. It's on us to change our paradigms and how we think, feel, and act in our community. Unity or non-existence. They used to have a saying that you're here today and gone tomorrow. No, you're here today and gone today. I done had those conversations and got that call. Then I'm talking to the youngin, and he think he got it all figured out. Then I get a call from one of his relatives asking, Mr. White, you think you can speak at my son's funeral? Can you do a letter for his visual? Oh, my son just got locked up. Can you send him a letter on his behalf as a character reference? You really want me to do a character reference? Your son was hard-headed, a follower, misdirected, a get-with, a flunky, carrying weapons, militarized weapons in our community. We got to ask ourselves, where are these guns coming from? Hundreds and hundreds of guns, 30, 40, 50 round clips. See, when I go to the crime scene and I'm seeing 32 shells on the ground, like we living in Baghdad or Iraq somewhere. This is a residential community. I've been in Southeast all my life, even during the crack epidemic, and when we used to be called, what was it called, the murder capital. I've never seen this many babies, kids, and women shot in my entire life. A 1-year-old this week, an 8-year-old last week in a car, 2 15-year-olds 3 days ago, a 16-year-old last night. And I think about the Mekhi Wilsons and the Davon McNeils. Their life was cut down at 8, 9, 10 years old because some idiot thought it was cool because he didn't value his life because we didn't teach him. See, it ain't all his fault. It's our fault. Because we was teaching the wrong thing to do and tearing down our community as men. See, our queens, our African queens, have held down the community for 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. But it's time for the men to stand up. So you want to cut off the body, cripple the head. And I'm seeing a taunting on the Instagram, back and forth. Enough is enough, guys. This is going to be your regular press conference. This is a call to action. This is a call for the city officials, including myself, because I don't get a pass. I don't get a pass. That means you don't get a pass. We asked for Muriel Bowser to declare a state of emergency here in Washington, D.C. Because our black and brown boys and girls are going far too quick in our community. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. We're expecting we're going to do business as usual, and we haven't had one meeting about the violence yet in our community. See, I submitted a 14-page proposal to all my city council members to get it funded at $36 million. And the first year, you know how much money we got in the budget for crime prevention? $750,000 is spread around D.C. At the time, it was a $15.5 billion budget. Yet I know we're giving developers on this street, this one street right here, a total of about $46 million right here on this one street. And this street is called Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. Which this be a damn shame. Because we're not outraged enough. We're not loud enough. We don't care enough. Because too much division. This hood versus that hood. This crew versus that crew. And this family versus this family. And this mother versus this daughter. This father versus this son. Now or never. I want to pause for a moment to give an announcement because I feel like in my heart that we're not united enough. Whatever opposition you have towards your neighbor, your friend, we got to put that aside, you guys. We got to put it aside. It don't matter what happened. The population for African Americans, blacks in this community is shrinking each and every day. This used to be Chocolate City. Now we was at 47%. The census just went out. The numbers gonna get lower and lower because we suffer from diabetes, high blood pressure, COVID-19, cancer, you name it, we have it. So we can't afford to have ours. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. And so you see that mentality and learn to love self and understand my culture and my history, it's easy for me to take a gun and shoot my brother. Because when I shoot him, I'm heavily shooting myself. See, when somebody pull up on Gold Road or Stanton Road, or W Street, or 4th Street, and I still can't understand that for the life of me. The police department is supposed to be assigned to 4th Street. We had over 18 people shot in a 4200 block of 4th Street and 3rd Street in the last 2 years. Same exact location. Then you go down to 6th Street, you're going to see the same exact thing. And it's on us to intervene. I do want to recognize my credible messages in the room. You can raise your hand. From Cure the Streets, Alliance of Discernment, the Love Movement. I'm going to tell you right now, we're doing you an injustice because we're not doing enough. See, when I used to do violence intervention, it's about 30 people. We used to have at least 150 people. And we met every day with a conference call in the morning. We were in the community, we was in the recreation centers, we was in the traps, and we was in the schools. We was in the jails. See, we knew who was coming home that was a problem to the community before they even came home. See, there's no coordination. Because you got this group beefing with this group. This person talking about this person. And the house divided against itself will never stand. And time out for the rhetoric. We have to call to action. Every day I get a call from an organization or a person saying, I got a heart to do this in the community, do this in the community, and they ask me, where's the funding? Where's the funding to support people's nonprofit ambitions and goals in our community that want to give a helping hand? See, what you do is you take a little bit of money, I'm going to say it because it needs to be saved, and you sprinkle it on the ground. And we out fighting for it amongst the organization, beefing with each other over that little bit of funding. Yet a developer from Virginia can get a piece of property and land right here on MLK for $1, and the government just give them $15 million. Who can't win in that type of situation? That's leverage when you go to the bank. And the education in our community, we're the only people that just not let the school system educate our kids. We send them up there when they come home to their homework, that's it. What happened to the rites of passage programs in our community? Concerned black men, the retreats in our community, Camp Brown. Come on, man. All this stuff we had more when we had less. We better wake up. Can we say wake up? We better wake up. Because we're asleep. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I'm going to close with this. He said, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or perish together as fools. This Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., we're having a Zoom conference call. If you have an idea, or organization, or business that want to get involved, we're calling everybody to get on the Zoom. Put your information in the chat. We're going to be following up because it's budget season. There's $16.7 billion on the line. That was your tax dollars. That's not the government's money. That's your money. And you get what you fight for. See, we got the new 4 new wrecks coming to the war because we fought for it. And you know who came in that fight for? Our senior citizens. They was in wheelchairs, on buses, Metro Access, Seabury. So it's on us. We're going to organize. We're going to fight for what we need. And if you're not with us, you're against us. And if you're in the community and you think you're just going to ride around, keep shooting people, and you calling grandma who saw it, the police asked who did it. You saying there was a young man with a black coat on, some blue jeans, some teens ran that way, and you saying she had? No, you had. You had. See, we forgot the definition of snitching. That's a citizen. I never heard nobody call grandma hat. Come on, man. It's a new day. And we got to set the narrative of what we want to see happen in our community. Unity or non-resistance. Thank you. God bless.
That's my Councilman.
Questions? Sam Ford.
Yeah, Trayon, Councilmember White. The mayor yesterday named a director of gun violence prevention. What are your thoughts about that? What role do you think the person could play? Is that a necessary position?
So I heard that Sister Linda Holly Hopper will be leading that division. It is my hope that and I know Linda has been with DYS for a number of years. She's been working with high-risk individuals in the community for a long time. But it has to be also a community-led approach. See, the government, we take too long to make things happen. See, when there's an argument happening between a young guy over a girl, we know what's happening before it gets to the government. And so that's all well and good to put in the government. We have to put resources into the community on the ground. Because the bureaucracy of creating up, we got the one's office, and we got a new office, we'll have another office, guess what? At nighttime, these individuals go home. We still here. Hearing AK-47s going off all night long. And so that's well and good, but I'm just praying that this court does not believe that Sister Harper will do that, but we have to put more money into the community instead of making government larger.
So when you say more money in the community, and you're saying basically...
So tell me this, between 2006 and 2010, we had a lot of money in the community for nonprofits. But you can go to DC Youth Family Investment Trust to apply for a grant to run your program. Now, if you ask a nonprofit right now, where do they go to apply for funding to help their program inside the school, after school, in their community? They couldn't tell you. They couldn't tell you. How do I know? Because they called my office asking me.
So you're saying the government should put more money into nonprofit, community-based...
You have to put the money where the people are. And it's not just about money. It's about mentor organizations. It's about career training. It's about wraparound services. It's about quality food options. It's about substance abuse services in our community. Mental health services in our community. All that has to be coordinated. Because while we focus on this one person in the household who's deemed to be the shooter, guess what? He got 2 other brothers. He got a sister. And almost 9 times, Warday has 82% single parent households, predominantly African American females. Because the black man has been removed from the family. And we wonder why we malfunction.
Councilman White, we have a new police chief, and he's black, and he grew up east of the river. And because of those facts, doesn't it seem like he would be more sensitive to some of the issues that you're talking about as opposed to the previous chief?
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I think that I like Chief Conti. He's always been straightforward with me. I've always had issues with law enforcement since I was a kid. You know, I have run in Sam, though. He didn't see me, you know, my ups and downs over the years. But nonetheless, I say that police is not the solution to addressing crime in our community. If we're waiting for police to do it, we're going to be waiting forever for them to address crime in our community, because the reality is most of the police on that police department don't even live in D.C. and don't care nothing about you. And I'm not saying all police are bad, but what I do know is that we used to have the side-by-side band. We used to have officer friendly. See, when I played for the Police Boys and Girls Club, we had Officer Williams. You had an issue going on at home, you needed some food, you need a couple of dollars in the McDonald's right here, we go talk to Officer Williams. Those relationships have been broken down. And I see DC police have made some change towards some reform, but we're so far behind. We can't wait for the police department to do it. It's men in the community that have to step up and do it. We have a lot of men coming home from incarceration that tore up this community. They coming back saying they want to help out in the community. You know what the nerds here on the news was when we did the program for credible messengers and violence interrupters, that we are paying people not to commit crime. Nah. We trying to empower them to take back your own community and create your own businesses and circulate your own dollar. So you don't have to be dependent upon the government to fund you, because we got a pot of money we circulating each and every day in our own community. Any other questions?
Just finally for me, so basically I'm just trying to get an understanding of what you're saying. So you're saying basically that you think that the government should put more money into community-based organizations to that would be a way of stemming the violence.
What I know, Sam, is that whenever there's a gap or need for a service, see, I remember when they said we don't have any amenities in the community, right? The developer put together a plan and said they needed $30 million in tax increment financing to make the project work. And we found the money for that in a matter of a year. When you say it's an issue with black and brown boys and girls getting killed in the streets, oh, we don't have no money for that. it costs about $1 million, how much? About $1 million per homicide in the city. Are we gonna find money for that? Because the judge gonna get paid, the coroner gonna get paid, the detective's gonna get paid. The firm gonna cost $20,000. They gonna get paid. We can take those resources and invest it on the front end instead of on the back end. Because now they tore down all these wrecks in this community. Now we see the backlash of the divestment of resources in our community. Question.
Yeah, Councilman, I want to thank you for the press conference. You know, my question is, and it's still pressing, how did we get away with creating two separate violence interrupter task force that almost seems as if they're in competition with each other when there really should be only one interruption organization? And the second part of that is, how can we change the narrative of being assigned to turf as if these entities are only representing a different hood?
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. To be honest, when I got in office, there was $0. For the last 7 years prior to, it was no money. People were just dying. There was funerals and visuals everywhere. Nothing was being done. After the money that went to the Citywide Coordinating Council for Youth Violence Prevention with the Peaceaholics, East River Collaborative, ERCPC, but when that money vanished, they just money was gone. And that was like 8 years ago. And so what happened was we pushed the narrative to get money in the budget. The only way to get money in the budget is to put it into a government agency. And so the government agency that was supposed to be for violence interruption went a part of what is called the NEAR Act. It was introduced by Councilman McDuffie, and it went unfunded for a couple of years. So we pushed the narrative and got it funded. When it got funded, the ONE's office was created, which is the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And they didn't have any study. They had to get a building, a staff, and so once they got that money, they ended up getting power to do smaller grants. But what happened was, the more we put money into that to build that, we couldn't get out to the streets fast enough. This during a time, I don't know if you all remember, but this one, Bundy got killed. And we had a big old meeting at Checking Enterprises in the back in the secret garden behind we Act. And Chairman Phil Mendelson was there, Robert White was there, I was there, the Attorney General Carver Singh was there, and we was trying to figure out how to get money to the streets. And so I called King McDuffie Attorney General Carver Singh, and tried to figure out how we can get more money in the community. And Carl had got some money from a lawsuit or something like that. And he didn't get money out. And so he was able to get a pot of money to put simultaneously waiting for the other money to hit the streets because people were still dying in the streets. And so in the long range of things, there was money put out on this side, an RFP that someone could apply for to get the grant on this side. There was another RFP for money put out on this side. And as a result, 2 different entities or several other different, it was more than one grant put out. Several people applied for it and several people got the grants. But I do agree there needs to be coordination. Because when you're working with this neighborhood crew, they beefing with somebody else. So you can't just say you're working with this group. You got to go work with that group too. Because we all know what happened. We asked a young man to get in school, put your gun down, turn your life around. His ops, as we call it, are still talking, still trying to get at him. And so something that happens to him and he brings everybody else back into the uproar. And there's no breaks. When I was doing youth, Sharice, remember? We was doing youth violence, we didn't get no days off. You was on call like the fire department. You got that call, you get up, you go outside to see what's going on. And most of the time we were de-escalated because we was already involved on the front end doing work every day with programming. And so we need to rethink a real comprehensive strategy. That's what we're pushing the mayor to do. ASAP, while brown and black boys and girls are dying in the streets. Any other questions?
What can we all do to support? Because I'm going to be at the meeting on Wednesday. I really would like to see a way to consolidate the mass effort to really get on the same page.
Thank you. So the question is, what can we do to consolidate the mass effort and get everyone an opportunity to participate? I think that I know from our office we created a strategy that involved workforce development, provide wraparound services, crisis prevention, mental health services, substance abuse, and we laid that plan before the council members, but it didn't get funded totally in the budget. And there was also a part where we had to bring in the community, because the community is the key part to decreasing violence in the community. See, we made it so much government, and people are afraid to say this and do this for afraid that they might get written up at work and fired from their job. Even coming to a press conference like this is risky. For somebody who don't have a gun, that's going outside every day, no badge, and trying to stop crime with no vest on. And it don't happen overnight. And so what we're going to do is set the parameters to create a conversation for people to chime in and give us your ideas. What it is that you do. It might be 3 people to do the same thing. You all need to be collaborating. You might need to do a joint grant to go out to one grant yourself. See, what happened is you might have 3 organizations that do the same thing, but they want to fight and argue about getting one grant. And a small pot of money, not even sustainable. Can't even serve one family. And so we have a strategy. There are other people who have different visions that they like to incorporate. We're trying to figure out what works. And it's budget season. And if we don't shake that tree, then it's on us. The squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Just want to clarify something. You're asking for a state of emergency in the ward or throughout the city?
Throughout the city. See, violence is just not happening here in Ward 8. It's happening all over the city. In fact, it's happening in every city or black community all across the United States. It's just not isolated to Ward 8. See, that's the narrative you like to hear, Ward 8, but no, it's happening all over the city. And so, we asking for a citywide, we asking for a comprehensive strategy meeting. I think we had some points in the press release that we sent to speak to that. We wanted to also get the government agencies and organizations to coordinate concerted efforts to figure out how they're going to chip in, because some of the money that's going towards public safety is coming out of the police department. Department of DHS, Department of Human Services need to chip in. Department of Behavioral Health need to chip in. Our mental health agencies need to chip in. Every agency need to be chipping in to ensure. We talked about getting the violence interrupters in the schools. I know we're in COVID, not in school yet. But that was 4 chancellors ago. I had this meeting in 2017, and it's 2021, and we still haven't fully got to the schools yet. I think we had 2 workers in the school out of all the high schools and middle schools in this area in the last 4 years, too. Let's go, Commissioner.
What can we do as commissioners to help the effort and help the council in these efforts?
Well, one of the things, and I'm going to be quite frank, there's too much infighting going on with agency commissioners. I don't know how many meetings I watched or attended where the arguing and fighting just happened in the whole meeting and nothing gets done. A house divided against itself will never stand. And the reality is there's too much development coming in our community, and ASCs has a responsibility to be in the safeguard for our community before it hits the streets. And there are far too many commissioners that have been in the past. I know you're a new commissioner, I want to thank you for your service. Also Commissioner Crawford, who's as well, that's been selling our community out. Getting a couple of dollars here to let the developers do what they want to do. And so what you can do is join in on the effort. I don't have all the solutions. But I know each person in this room, each person on Facebook Live, each person on Instagram got a gift that God gave them. They can offer this community. You might want to do chess. You might want to do a debate team. You might want to do a jump rope contest. You might want to do a rites of passage program. Each and every gift in this room, in this community, adds value. And the reality is, how I got to where I am today, because I was doing a lot of this work when I had no title. No title. You don't need no title to do God's work. You don't need no position to do God's work. You just need a willing vessel that God can use to make a difference in our community. And so we got to find those vessels. There's an auntie in the community that can teach a little girl sewing. It's a mentor in the community that can teach the guys IT. They hacking their phones every day. So we got a lot of gifts already in our community. Everything we need in our community is already here. We just too divided. If we don't have any more questions or comments, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. But no, we gotta. Can we say action?
Action.
We gotta get. We have an action. We have an action. And we gotta push the envelope. Action, man. Thank you. God bless.